reading from the Notebooks by Maria Valtorta, 1943, July the 14th. Jesus says, "Those who close their hearts to mercy, close their hearts to God. For God is in your brothers and sisters, and those who are not merciful to their brothers and sisters are not merciful to God. God cannot be divided from his sons and daughters, and consider carefully that you that live are all sons and daughters of the Eternal, who created you. Even those who apparently are not, because they live outside my church, are. Do not think it is licit to be harsh and selfish because someone is not of your own. The origin is single, the Father. You are brothers and sisters, even if you do not live under the same paternal roof. And how can you fail to think of acting to attract those who are distant, the lost, and the unfortunate, who for different reasons are outside my dwelling? God is not exclusive to Catholics, and those Catholics who do not work for non-Catholics err greatly. They do not work in the Father's interest. They are just parasites who live off the Father without giving him filial assistance. God has no need of assistance because he is most powerful, but he wants it from you, just the same. God circulates like life-giving blood in the veins of the whole body of the universe. In this great body created by him, Catholicity is the center. But how could the most distant members be vivified by God if the center locked itself, with its treasure, and excluded the members from this benefit? God is also where a different faith or a different spirit makes one think he is not. And in truth I tell you that what is true is not what appears. Many Catholics are destitute of God more than a savage is, for many Catholics are sons and daughters of God in name only. Even worse, they deride this name and cause it to be derided through the works of hypocritical life, whose manifestations are the antithesis of the dictates of my law, when they do not reach the point of open rebellion, making them enemies of God. Whereas in the faith of a non-Catholic, mistaken in essence, but corroborated by an upright life, the sign of the Father is more present. These are creatures who need only to know the truth. The false children, on the other hand, are creatures who must know, respect, and love for God in addition to the truth. The souls wanting to be mine must have mercy on these other poor souls, but the victim souls must immolate themselves as well for them. What else did I do? Didn't I immolate myself for all? If it is mercy to provide food, clothing, drink, burial, instruction, and comfort, what is it to obtain true life for one's brothers and sisters at the price of one's own sacrifice? If the world were merciful, the world would possess God, and what tortures you would fall like a dead leaf. But the world, and in the world, especially Christians, have replaced love with hate, truth with hypocrisy, light with darkness, God with Satan. And Satan, where I sowed mercy and made it grow with my blood, scatters his tribulations and makes them prosper with his hellish breath. The hour of his defeat shall come, but for the time being he comes because you help him. But blessed are those able to remain in the truth and work for the truth. Their mercy will be rewarded in heaven." Jesus further states, "Do not harbor hesitation and doubts. What I have told you is true. As the Creator, God is also where he seems not to be. Is he not worshipped in truth, or is he not worshipped at all? But he is there all the same. Who has given life to the far-off Patagonian, to the Chinese, and to the idolatrous Africans? Who keeps the atheist alive so that he will have time and the opportunity to find faith? The one who is, and whom nothing can harm. The presence of life in creatures and the origination of all things are the witness to which every living being must now bow his head, even if wishing to deny it. Now to lead distant souls, who feel him by instinct, but do not know him, and do not serve him in truth, to God is the greatest form of mercy. I said, take the gospel to all creatures. But that command, do you think I gave it to those 12 alone and to their direct descendants in the priesthood? No, I want every truly Christian soul to be an apostolic soul. Leading souls to me increases my glory, but it also increases the glory of the good and faithful servant who by his sacrifice has attained the growth of my flock. The saint you love procured more than 100 missionaries. By this he means Saint Teresa of the Child Jesus. The saint you love procured more than 100 missionaries, but her glory in heaven is 100 times greater because she experienced the perfection of mercy on earth and consumed herself to give the true life to idolaters and sinners. You say to me, "But Lord, when someone has sinned against you and remains in sin, he is dead to the life of grace." It is true, but I am the resurrector, and in the face of the tears of the one crying over those dead to grace, I radiate out my infinite power. 3. The dead in the gospel, called back to life, because I was unable to resist the tears of a father, a mother, a sister. The victim and apostolic souls must be sisters, mothers, and fathers of those poor dead ones to grace, and come to me with the corpses of the unfortunate in their arms, upon their arms, as their most burdensome cross, and suffer for them until I say the words of life. On July the 15th, the Lord says, "Here I am to care for you entirely. But, poor Maria, certain wounds are necessary and fall within the work which a soul must undergo to be modeled into the shape which the divine artificer wants to give it. The block of marble, which is already roughly shaped out, says to itself, 'I think I've had enough of being hammered, grazed, and chiseled. I am sufficiently beautiful,' and convey the sculptor's idea. But the sculptor does not see it that way, and goes on hitting and chiseling until the work is perfect. I do the same with souls, and the more I have special designs for a soul, the more I work it. Listen then, you have been immersed for some months in mystical peace and joy, but you must not forget that many are not, and that you are only by my grace. See now, the storm of yesterday served to remind you precisely of these two things. The first is that you are a poor creature, full of failings, and that you greatly need the help of all, so as not to be at fault. Above all, you need the kindness of your Jesus. If he sets you on the ground for an instant, you act like a child a few months old, you fall at once, get dirty, and harm yourself. The second is that the victim soul is in continuous service for her brothers and sisters. Observe, Maria, how very many are led to desolation and despair by a complex set of circumstances. Living and living with others, above all, are as many traps to clutch poor creatures and lead them to doubt themselves, others, and God. Not all, O Maria, possess me the way you do, and if you, while possessing me, suffer so from others' way of acting, consider what others must suffer who do not have my breast to cry upon. You have always had me, even when you thought you were alone and did not come to me. You did not come, but I came. My unseen closeness was enough to introduce peace into the storms of your heart. A relative peace, because you were not helping me then, but it was always enough to prevent your ruin. But the others who are my enemies, the others whose faith is so chilled that it is no longer faith, in the storm they do not have the Master. If only you were heedful when I speak to you. I have spoken to you in these days about how you should treat your mother, and about the need for victims to drink the gall and vinegar in my place. So be calm. You have drunk it, but not too cheerfully, to tell the truth. But you have drunk it. It has not been without a purpose. Offer your pain, your discouragement over not having been better at it. Offer everything for your brothers and sisters, and do not doubt me. Your Master understands better than all others. If you had been spiteful or had railed against me, you would have wounded me. But your humiliation in regard to your mother, and your taking refuge in me for help, have annulled what is contributed by the imbalance in your mastery. You are a child that has been naughty. Children are forgiven, especially when they are sick, and repent of having been naughty. And Jesus forgives you. You will see that Father, and by this he means Father Migliorini, who speaks in my name and by my inspiration, also tells you the same. Do you want proof of it? Don't give him this notebook before confession, and confess. You will see. Be good and trusting. Love me and suffer. Consider that only I love you as you need to be loved, that only I understand you to perfection, and that only I can truly console you. Suffer. There is an infinite need for it in these days, for all and especially for you Italians. I told you to be a cistern of charity, to give everyone the sweet waters of love, but I tell you that by a most painful operation you must also purify the most bitter waters of hatred, in order to quench the thirst more and more of your brothers and sisters dying of so many thirsts. Needs are growing, the cistern must grow, and since it would be sacrilegious and foolish to join love to hatred, and corrupt the sweetness of the water of love with the bitterness of the water of hatred, at the price of your pain you must place upon yourself a kind of supernatural filter. You yourself absorb all the bitterness, and let the purified water filter through, so that the surge in the cistern of charity will grow. Whoever has given a glass of water in my name will be blessed. But whoever squeezes that glass out of his heart, what will he receive? Consider this and ascend. Yesterday, I really let what is human get the upper hand over me. As a justification, I do not adduce pain so spasmodic as to make me think of morphine with desire, or the torments of these days, or the lack of prudence and charity in others. I invoke nothing as an excuse for myself. I say that I have let what is human get the best of me. I have overstepped the bounds. Afterwards, while I was still overstepping the bounds, I clung to my Jesus, for I felt madness in my head and temptation in my heart. The second act of recovering my wits after the invocation of Jesus was to ask Mother for forgiveness. The third act, an enormous fear of having failed to deserve Jesus' words. I made more acts of contrition last night than in a year, for I cannot bear to think that I have grieved Jesus. It is in regard to him that I am sorry. But Jesus seemed to be smiling at me in forgiveness. The fear lasted until 8 o'clock this morning, when the Most Good One spoke to me with his dear voice, which is a real balm for the troubled heart. I am now anxious to hear what you say to me, so as to receive additional proof that what I am hearing really comes from Jesus. When she says you, she means Father Migliorini.